Tim's flagship episode 326. It's the Christmas special, and I'm your host, Jamie, and I'm joined by Merry Martindale.
Yes.
And Snowy Stephen Arbuckle.
Have yourselves a 20-minute Tim's
Lovely. This is we're back. We are back live and in colour for people watching us on YouTube.
It's not live.
What does live mean?
The difference between live and recorded, you mean?
Yeah. So we've been doing this long, and I don't know. Before we even get anywhere, we need to talk about the thrilling action of the weekend. Possibly one of the best games that you've ever seen, Stephen. What did you think of it?
Well, on a weekend where we had genuinely one of the most thrilling encounters in sporting history. Two teams going out there, leaving it all on the line for the pride of their fans, world-class players dragging their teams along with them.
Big time.
And then the next day the World Cup final is on as well. That Christmas banter to kick us off with there.
I wonder what the Aberdeen players thought watching that performance in the World Cup final. I mean, it would be stupid to do a football podcast and not talk about what was probably, Melly, the greatest World Cup final of all times.
Oh, it was tremendous. And listening to the phone in today when you two were on Friday, I was catching up, and you said about sometimes in football there's no fairy tale. I think you said it, Stephen, because everybody thought that Messi winning it would seal him being the greatest of all time. And just when the game was going, it went 2-0, and you're like, oh, he's going to do it, he's going to do it, he's dragged this team over the line. And then when France came back, you're like, oh, there's a new man wanting that thrown from him. But then going into extra time, it was just class. It was a great game of football, just absolute entertainment. A bit different from Batodry.
A wee bit. It was genuinely one of the best football matches I've ever watched. And see just the emotion of all the Argentina players. Di Maria having a full scale meltdown on the bench, man. You could see how much it meant to these guys. And I think the whole world basically wanted Messi to win it, because it does end, doesn't it, the greatest of all time conversation. I mean, the World Cup is not a very useful way to determine which footballers are the best, because you're sort of beholden to the country you're in. You can't really help that. However, when the margins are that slim between him and Ronaldo, and one of them needs to find some way of some point of difference that just ends the conversation forever, and that's what I loved about it. It was that whole team were fighting for Leo Messi. You could tell how much it meant to every single one of them. And when he wins it, you're just like, a conversation over. It's done. He completed football. I think that's what Sid Lowe wrote in The Guardian. Leo Messi completed football, and that he did.
Yeah, and it's also completely absurd to boil it down to, the previous 1,000 games that Messi has been near untouchable, near peerless in football for 15 years or whatever. Literally 1,000 games coming into the World Cup. It boils down to the result of a penalty shootout as to whether he is the greatest of all time or not. That's nonsense. But if
it's the one thing people can hold against.
If you insist on that being the margin, as you say, if you insist on that being the difference between him and Maradona, because Maradona had won it, and the chat was always that he had done it single-handedly and all that. Like, well, Messi's just dragged guys for Aston Villa and Brighton and all that to the World Cup with him. So for me, it's not a debate. But on the game itself, I think it's the best final I've ever seen. As a neutral, of course. Yeah. From a neutral's point of view, I think it's the best final I've ever watched, because in terms of drama or swings and all that, I think really only the 1999 Champions League probably comes close. Yeah. Where the Liverpool and AC Milan one. Yeah, those two are probably the only ones that come close. But particularly the fact that these finals are very often disappointing as well. It did go to penalties, but it was very different to how finals usually go, and it's 0-0, and then it goes to penalties, and it's a bit of a damp squid.
And the last Euros was pretty funny as well.
I was convinced, though, that when France came back into it, I was convinced that after everyone was already writing the headlines that Messi's finally done it, I was convinced that France were going to win it in penalties and he was going to miss his. I thought that's going to be the ending here, and I was gutted.
See the balls in that kid? Just rolls it past Hugo Lloris. Unbelievable, man.
Yeah, well, Messi has famously, the way Messi plays, and I think we can all broadly agree, very good at football, and once again demonstrated at this World Cup. But famously, the way he plays is that he never has to do anything ostentatious when he's dribbling. It's all just feints and drops of his weight and all that. And he kind of did it for a penalty as well. He just waited for the keeper to move and just rolled it straight past him. It was a perfect sort of snapshot of the way he's played football his entire career.
It was going into extra time. I thought, France in the ascendancy here, and then when Messi gets the goal, you think, no, that might be it. And then France get back in it. But I think Martinez just showed what a class keeper he is. That save, and what could have been the last kick of the
Yeah,
ball, and then
What was he doing with that Golden Glove trophy though?
I know.
What was he doing, man?
over there as well? He'll come back when we won't have one. But then when it goes to penalties, you look at it and go, like, Hugo Lloris is like the Craig Gordon of France, isn't he? Just doesn't save them, and Martinez is the Fraser Foster of France, where he's got a great record of saving penalties. So when it went to that, you thought, right, just do it. But just seeing Messi win it and all the scenes, it was amazing, man.
It was a weekend of talking points because after that final, right, everyone's talking about that's a magnificent game, probably one of the best World Cup finals, one of the best football matches you've ever watched. There was as much discourse about the Aberdeen Celtic game, but it was just the other way. It was about, quite rightly, Aberdeen were getting absolutely slaughtered for this approach they took.
Pretty much unanimously in the pundits and everything. And we're talking, guys like Michael Stewart, Willie Miller, who else was there? Tom English and all that. We're basically just unanimous. All the brain trust, all the top Scottish football minds. But in fairness, they absolutely nailed it at the weekend, and Aberdeen's approach to it. I think it was dismal, if I'm honest, an absolute grinching that they tried to do there. And we've been over this a number of times, particularly this season, talking about the approach of opposition teams when it comes to Celtic. And often we are misconstrued and misrepresented in what the point is we're trying to make here. It's never that we want people to open up and just let Celtic absolutely destroy them. That's not our point here, because ultimately Celtic win the game anyway.
Yeah.
But we often say, and I'm kind of fed up making the point now, it's not my place to do it. It's up to Aberdeen fans to make their feelings known on what they saw at the weekend there. It's no
You
odds
paid
to
the
us.
money to go and watch that,
Which
is unbelievable.
No odds
Some
to
of
us,
them
because
Some
A
of
lot
them.
of empty seats.
as they
well,
often do, Celtic won anyway, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to complain about it from that perspective, but we have been over how pathetic it is to watch, and how ultimately, right, and it might be being a little bit dramatic, but it's damaging to Scottish football's reputation to play like that, to be the third best team, to be the third biggest club in the country, to have such a storied history. And I know that doesn't really come into on the day.
We did make this point on the match reaction, the Patreon reaction. Like, there will be people. Aberdeen are a name that still means something.
Of course, yeah.
Sometimes, and people will have been down south Saturday game. Like, there's a game on Sky, Aberdeen v Celtic. That might be a good game. People will have tuned in off the back of thinking that Aberdeen v Celtic was a worthwhile tie to watch, because that Aberdeen had some sort of reputation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's ultimately, people will say, who cares what English people think? But we do ultimately, I'm saying ultimately a lot there, but at the end of the day, we do want an audience for Scottish football, because a greater audience means we can take that to Sky and say, look, we deserve more money here. But what we can't do is go cap in hand to Sky and say, pay us loads of more money for that crap we're serving up. But that's the third biggest team in the country, and that's how they approach it. And it's not really about impressing English pundits. Who cares about that? But who's more likely to watch and take an interest in Scottish football? Your average just football fan across the UK, right, the British Isles and all that, or somebody in Germany or Spain or something like that. Right? We are kind of trying to make it a sort of bigger UK market involved in our game, because that's who's going to pay for it. It's going to be Sky eventually. So yeah, I think it's very, very disappointing. Again, we're often misconstrued, so I'm wary of making the same point again about how teams, why don't you just try and win games rather than trying to draw? Because Celtic won anyway. They won anyway. You get nothing, and I get all that's left to say on it is get it up you quite honestly, because you got out of that game what you put into it, and that was absolutely nothing, and not a single bit more deserved was from it. It was a dismal display.
It wasn't football.
No.
And that's the point. It's not like they went and they tried something really creative. It was really interesting how they creatively marked a certain Celtic player out the game, or Jim Goodwin done something quite tactically well there when he got the ball. There was none of that. It was just, I'll just stick 10 men across the 18-yard box and you try and score. And as Stephen said, Melly, you lose doing that anyway. We made this point again, I'm repeating myself, but if you want to hear these points fresh and brand new and first, immediately after the match, patreon.com/20minute-tims is where you find match reactions. But it's not any less true. That tactic of low block worked for a period of time, sometimes for some teams against some Celtic teams. It doesn't work anymore. So you need to try something. You need to try something else, and you might as well attack, because see that low block, anti-football, I mean, low block suggests there's some sort of tactical nous involved. That anti-football approach gets you nothing against Celtic, and managers now, you might as well attack, because you might get a draw, or you might get a win against Celtic, 1 out of every 15, 20, 50 games, whatever. but attacking you might also get a win 1 out of every 20 or 50 games. I saw David Martindale talking about it, and we'll come to him in a minute, and he was like, well, Celtic scored in the 87th minute, so Aberdeen were a couple of minutes away from a win, and then, yeah, but there's no one then. Because the match is 95 minutes long. It doesn't matter if Celtic scored in the first minute or the 87th minute, because Celtic's approach doesn't change. Our approach is the same for the first minute, at half time, with 5 minutes to go, 10 minutes to go. Our approach is exactly the same. We try the same things. We keep pressing, we keep attacking, we keep trying to find openings, and eventually it comes. So you don't get a well done at 87 minutes you were drawn. You get 0 points, nothing.
No, and that's what they deserve. Like, they got nothing out of the game, not even a shot on target. And for the third place team in the country who weren't on bad form going into this, I know we had a break, but they were looking decent. They've got one of the top goal scorers in the league on their books. They went 3-5-2, but those strikers weren't there to attack Celtic. They were there just to stop their defenders having a lot of the ball. And a friend of mine, and you guys know him, he's been on the podcast, said, I think you were a bit harsh on Aberdeen. So I went, was I? Yeah. No, I wasn't harsh enough. For the third place team to get that, and watching it back, all Aberdeen had was one player ran and took a decent run at Celtic and won a free kick off Cameron Carter-Vickers. Bit of a soft free kick. And they had a shot from that went over the bar. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And when that guy was running through, bearing down on Celtic's defence, he had his strike partner ahead of him, and until the last second, not one Aberdeen player in shot. Not one Aberdeen player in shot, and he's ran from his own half.
That's why he hit the deck.
You're looking at it going, where was the chances to score? Because it was just one of those ones, see if we get a set piece, we might be able to grab something. Pathetic.
Well, let's be absolutely clear about this as well, because Melly, you make a good point about how they've got players, they've got decent players in there. This is a team that are capable of going and scoring goals. They've demonstrated it all season. What they did was they chose not to.
Yes.
They very clearly and obviously chose not to bother. They have played quite well this season. They've scored a lot of goals. I mean, I think they've scored as many goals as Celtic at home or something along those right. So they're obviously capable of it. What it was a choice to not bother doing it. We're not talking about Livingston here. Yes, we have our complaints about Livingston and whoever else. St Mirren, no, that's a bad example because they did beat Celtic. But we have our complaints about teams not trying to at least be in a contest with Celtic. But that can't apply to Aberdeen. I'm sorry. It can't be. It can't be that no team is capable of attacking or at least trying to disrupt a team. That's not what they're doing. They're just defending. And I can't help but wonder if that to me is the main difference between guys like Ange Postecoglou and managers that we find in Scotland. It's not the resources. Granted, that is a part of it, right? Ange has access to a greater quality of player than these managers do, of course. But what Ange Postecoglou has proven, without throughout his career, is that he is capable of taking unfancied teams to greater success than they were expected, right? But he's got the attitude, he's got the approach, he's got the belief, he's got the system in place and the unwavering belief in his players to go out and do that. What Jim Goodwin is doing is he's taking these players who have, as we have already said, who've been in good form, they've been scoring goals, they've been getting points, they've been climbing up the table, and he's told them, right, you've done all this, but none of you are good enough to do that against Celtic. So therefore, we're going to completely chuck that in the bin and play completely differently. Totally demoralise your team in the completely fruitless chase of a point and nothing each draw.
Because footballers don't want to be playing that way.
Exactly. And again, as I said, this is the difference between Ange Postecoglou building a culture at a club and just being a manager and just chasing the odd point here and there, which we seem to get in Scotland. Again, I'm only talking about this game against Celtic. I know they won't play like that against other teams, but again, it's just a very disappointing approach from such a big club.
Ange always talks about, even when it gets to the Champions League, look, make teams uncomfortable.
Yes,
make them uncomfortable. And look, all season, look, Celtic have won a lot of games. Look, they've got the odd game we've won 9-0, we've dished out beatings, but for a game that was only won by the one goal, I've never felt Celtic were uncomfortable at all during the game. Not once. No. We always had a player free. We always had a player willing to make a run. We always had a man over. It was as if it was a training game where you go, right, we're going to play against 12 players and see if we can break them down just to practice this because teams will sit in. It almost felt like that. It felt like Celtic had a man over every time. Yet Aberdeen, absolutely nothing. I mean, the only thing that was uncomfortable for Celtic was maybe us as fans that the goal hadn't come yet. But
the goal.
It's that diluting orange. I'm not used to. The goal hadn't come yet, so we were just waiting on it, and then when the goal goes in, it's no surprise, is it? It's no surprise. It's like, right, we can come in the 87th minute, the 95th minute, or the first minute. Because if it came in the first minute, would Aberdeen change much?
No.
Probably not.
Just by the way, we're giving each other presents because it's Christmas time. We're not opening them yet. We're going to open them later on in the show. We've bought each other presents. We did a secret. Did we have? So it's not Secret Santa, but
No.
Did we do a limit? I don't think we did a limit either. So, but just for reals here, one of the presents that I've got you to, kind of uneven. One's for Patter, but one of them is really special, and it better not end up on eBay because I think you're really going to. I think you, as the viewers, are going to like this as well.
God, I'm uncomfortable now, given what I've brought.
Yeah, I put a lot of effort in.
But see that one final point on their approach as well. See that, but see another 3 minutes and they might have got something. You can do that to any aspect of the game you like. You could say, but if Celtic had made better decisions, it would have been about 7-0. If they hadn't gotten to the edge of the box a few too many times, and there was a wee bit of indecision, guys like Matt O'Reilly, maybe Turnbull when he came on as well, where they're getting to the edge of the box, it's just a sea of players in front of them, and they're trying a through ball, which eventually becomes half through ball, half shot, and the keeper just picks it up. There were so many of those. Giako missed some chances again, which we might end up coming to, but if any of these things had been better, then Celtic would have won. So I'm not buying this. But we were 3 minutes away from drawing. Oh, congratulations!
And it was the circumstances of it as well. After the break, going to Aberdeen, it's Baltic. Aberdeen players before they would have known what the tactics were, but there must have been some thought somewhere going, this is probably our best chance to get points off Celtic. They've just they've got players away on international duty. They've got players just back from international duty. Nobody's played. It's fucking freezing up here. Let's give them a horrible time of it. But as you said, Stephen, it was completely in pursuit of a single point.
Yeah.
That's all they were after. Do you think Celtic were rusty though, Melly?
Possibly, but look, Aberdeen might have been the same, and it's understandable. We've had a break here. We've only had one friendly, so it can be understandable that Celtic weren't quite up to scratch as well. Looking at it on paper, it is probably the most difficult game out with Rangers in the league. Sometimes Hearts, but I think that
I was worried about it. Coming back to that. Yeah,
the Hearts game can sometimes take care of itself because of the rivalry. Whereas Aberdeen, if it's a chance for them, let's go out and play Celtic. We've been doing well recently, but they chose not to. And Celtic, yes, maybe. I think if we play that game in 2 weeks' time, Celtic destroy Aberdeen. It'll be 3 or 4-0. It'll be very dominant. I just think some things didn't click into place. The front three just didn't fall for us. But I think if Celtic get an early goal in the game, everything starts to flow again. But it was one of those games where it felt like, it might get away from us. But as soon as you get the goal, that's fully deserved.
It was the missed chances though, wasn't it? Like the Kyogo ones, you're looking at those going, we created some decent chances. And you're just thinking it's a wee bit of ring rust. That's all we need. We just need to get back in the competitive swing of things, don't we?
Yeah, Kyogo missed a couple of chances. One in particular that I remember, I think Abada had knocked that across and he just didn't get anything quite on it as he was just a couple of yards out. The thing about Kyogo is though, that he will come back to scoring goals. Yoggers, the little yoggers. And I'm wearing if you're only listening to audio here, I'm wearing a Japan national team inspired Christmas jumper.
It's really
here.
Niche.
Yeah, so isn't it?
It's really niche.
So yeah, Merry Christmas to the Japan national team. I'm wearing that. Check out the video. Kyogo will be back to scoring goals very, very soon. Little yoggers. But the thing about it's he's always missed chances, right? Yeah. This is from day one. This isn't something that has just kicked in. He hasn't really just dipped in form. The trade-off here, the rough with the smooth with Kyogo always has been, in my opinion, and in my experience with it, is that he scores a lot of goals and he's been brilliant for Celtic, but he does miss chances. He's like, I'm talking day one here. He came in and started missing easy chances. But
do you think that's maybe why we ended up with him? Do you think maybe quite at his age he's not been picked up elsewhere?
Yeah, quite. It's entirely
that's
possible.
Not criticism, because that's how lots of players end up at Celtic.
Yeah, because we place a lot of stock in the fact that Ange knows that market and knows the players from it, but so does everyone else. It's just that probably English teams are less intimate with the players, with how they play over there, and would have to come on, it's Christmas. Don't poison people's minds with that.
No smut at Christmas.
They don't have the intimate knowledge of the players that Ange does, but they will be on nodding terms with who the talented players in Japan are. It's not like some hidden market or anything like that. So there is a possibility that some of the players we have signed in the last couple of years, who are the 26, 27, 28-year-olds, it's because they've maybe been overlooked or have been passed on by some of these kind of English teams who just sign loads of players and just loan them out. Kyogo is to me, he's still worth having around because he's so good.
Happy with that.
He's so good, and yes, he will continue to miss chances. It's a discussion we had recently about whether Celtic need another striker in. And I say, well, it's always handy. It's always handy to have another one. It's always great to have another option in there. But
especially with Giacomakis, seemingly wanting away.
Oh, the thing is, there's that. But he misses chances as well. But to me, bringing in another striker because Kyogo misses chances is kind of, it's not really going to solve that, because what you would need to do is never play Kyogo again, because he it's not like you can. Like, Kyogo's playing brilliantly and he's scoring every other week, but you need to bring this guy on as like some sort of NFL kicker style to finish his chances. That's not how it works, so that wouldn't solve the problem for me. I think you just need to persevere with Kyogo, and if we can bring another guy in, then by all means. But Kyogo's definitely it's not going to derail his career just missing the odd chance here and there.
Would he make of this Giacomakis away chat?
I can't understand it, to be honest. Like, he's came in at Celtic at an age, I think he turned 28 last week, was it? 28 years old. His career's been up and down. He's found a time in his career where he's going through, probably beyond a purple patch now because he's been doing it for a couple of years. But look, the players are there to make the most of their careers. I can understand it. And this guy's came into Celtic, done very well, had a bit of a bad start, done very well, become a fan's favourite and scores goals. And maybe teams look at him and go, do you know what, he could be effective for us. But when you look at him, he's very effective for Celtic, but sometimes he can look really bad when he's dribbling the ball like that. So these guys are at Celtic for a reason, but technique-wise or quality-wise, but also at Celtic for another reason, and to try and
I don't like
move
this.
on.
This doesn't sit well with me.
What do you want? Some guys that are happy just to come to Celtic and stay there for 7-8 years?
I know it's the way it goes, but I just don't like how disposable all these players are sort of becoming. Like, he comes and he leaves. I mean, I think Giacomakis has barely made a mark at Celtic. I think there's work for him to do there.
Definitely. But
you know what I mean? I think I can see why he wants to leave, understand the practicalities of it, but sometimes I'm like, like Juranovic definitely made a mark. Giacomakis, I mean, he's not even really pushed himself to be first choice striker.
Aye, but if you look at it, there's talk of him going in January, but
I heard he's leaving because people still call him Yomakis.
And I don't blame him. I do not blame him. As Stephen says, it's written on his shirt. It's fair enough. So
he's like, I'm sick of this. Geomakis constantly.
And I do not blame him. But if you're looking at it, like, what do we get out of players? Because two of the best players I've seen at Celtic in the last 10 years are Dembele and
Charlie Mulgrew.
Well, no, never. And Virgil van Dijk. We get two seasons out of them. If Giacomakis leaves at the end of the season, that's 2 seasons. But because these guys are brilliant, I think it's all right for them to leave. But because Giacomakis isn't up there with one of our best players and our best performance, it's not all right for him to leave. I want players that want to come here and go, do you know what, I'm going to perform my best so I can get a move somewhere else. You want players that are hungry to go on for more, because if they leave, it'll be because they've done well, for big money that is. But if they're crap, we'd happily dispose of them. So it works both ways.
Well, it also works both ways as well, is that I'm under no illusions that Celtic will be very aware that he's currently at his peak value that he's ever been at his career.
Yeah.
And he's about to go over the other side of that as well, because as Melly said, he's turned 28. He is in prime last big move territory with that. So Celtic know that. I mean, we've got Peter Lawwell back, Christ. He doesn't know the value of the players. So, this, maybe not this window, right? But I would understand it if he left in the summer, because in the summer he will be at his absolute peak value. And Celtic would, in my opinion, be crazy not to at least consider moving him on. If there's an offer that quintuples his, if that's a word, his value that Celtic paid for him. This is the business we're in now. As much as it is unpalatable as it is to us fans, but we need to remember Ange has been trying to prepare us for this in some of his press talk.
I just wonder how realistic it is, though, because so the idea that you bring in Giacomakis and you sell him for 7 million and that, or 10 million or whatever, but that allows you to move out of the £4 million bracket and buy the 7, 8, 9 million pound bracket player, right? But to me, that's the limit for Celtic.
Yeah, probably.
Because I don't think we're never going to get to the point where we're buying for 15 and selling for 40.
No.
That is rarely going to happen with Celtic because of the wages involved and the fact that these guys have got better offers, and we simply just can't afford to meet their weekly wage demands. So part of me is like, well, are Celtic going to be forever around the 4-5 million pound mark with the occasional stretch to 7, 8, 9? And that's kind of where we are at the moment. So I just wonder if chasing this utopia where instead of doing things dramatically different than we're doing just now. We're suddenly in a higher echelon of buying and selling. I just wonder if sometimes you need to be careful what you wish for a wee bit. You've got these players who are good, these players who are doing a job for you. Do you want to gamble on those and get more players in and spend a wee bit more to see if you can do better? Because as we've discovered, we sell players and we buy other players in for cheaper. We very rarely notice the difference, and I'm like, that's it. It's kind of be careful what you wish for a wee bit. Don't be so quick to just assume there's another we can just go out and buy another Giacomakis.
No, there's huge inherent risk in all of this year.
There is that as well, but there's also the be careful what you wish for in that 10-in-a-row season where you hang on to players far too long, don't get as much money for them, and they're not playing for you. I think you're right. That was ridiculous, though. And I think you're right with the guys like Giacomakis and Juranovic. It's pretty clear those guys want to go. The noises. I mean, Juranovic is linked with Barcelona today and Atletico Madrid. It's clear his agent's doing some strong work.
Another one. He'll never be more valuable than he currently is. Off the
some
back
of his
the World Cup.
performances were unbelievable.
Against Brazil, he was absolutely outstanding. Like proper, standout. Individual performance at the World Cup.
I hope he gets in the team of the tournament, but Hakimi's up against him.
I don't think he was in the team of the tournament. I saw one. I don't know if it was the official one right enough, but he had an up and down tournament, but he was absolutely brilliant.
I want to see Alan Hutton's team of the tournament.
Jurgen Klinsmann had Neymar in it. Like, come on.
I had Sooners.
But a final thing, let's see if we treat this is only speculation for me as well, but when you talk about moving players on and bringing others in, and you're right, Jamie, to identify that we'll always have a ceiling because we play in Scotland, right? So we're never going to be selling players for 60 million. It's never going to happen. But if phase one was Ange Postecoglou comes in, brings in a load of established, experienced international footballers such as Kyogo, Starfelt, the ones we always kind of rhyme off, Juranovic, Giacomakis, they all fit into that bracket of the kind of at the athletic peak, right? So if phase one is that and we move some of them on, next phase would probably be signing 21-year-olds.
Yeah.
So you
started with Bernabé, hasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So you bring down the average age of your squad a little bit because these players are much older than you would expect Celtic to normally sign at. So with Ange coming in, it was a bucking of the Celtic transfer trend when he signed all these players.
There definitely has been a change.
So what I could probably foresee happening is if you can get 10, that might be fanciful, 8 to 10 million for Giacomakis, you go out and buy like a 21-year-old for 5 or 6 million pounds. I don't know. Again, I'm only speculating, but I'm imagining that is the aim because it's always got to be a kind of growth aim with this. So I can only imagine that's what the aim is.
I think for sale MD it'll be surplus of 10 million and hopefully get that, but when you're looking at it, there already has been that change. Bernabé's came in for 4 million and he's not a starter for Celtic. He's a guy that are coming in we are hoping to develop. But as well, Celtic right now, last season and this season, if we win league, we go straight into the Champions League. So it's not sell a player or get into the Champions League. Celtic can do both.
Yeah.
And if we can build up our own money as well as selling players on, we've already started it. I mean, Celtic won the league, got into the Champions League, and the first thing they done, Carter Vickers and Jota straight in.
Yeah.
That's unheard of at Celtic. It's unheard of. So maybe we have moved forward in this way. And 6 million before that, the highest fee we paid was for Edward. That was seasons before that. In between that, there's really anything over that. Whereas now, starting to do it on the regular 4, 5 million, 6 million pound players. If we can start to churn this out more often, there is that risk that sometimes it will go well for you. If you do due diligence, it will go well for you.
Yeah, but because the risk, as Stephen said, is we sell Giacomakis, we bring in this 21-year-old, but the chances that Giacomakis scores with quite regularly, he's a proven goal scorer. He scores with ease. He's a proven goal scorer. So when you look at the model with Bernabé, there's a bit of development there. So you're taking a lot of goals out of the team. You're bringing in a player that you hope to develop. That's not a like for like. That's not one in, one out. That's
you could probably go out and get a better all-round player than Giacomakis, but we get somebody who scores as many goals as him. That's the trade-off. And what works better in Ange's team? Of course, goals are a lot, but if you can get somebody in that can do different skills for different strikers, isn't it?
'Tis the season for clean balls.
Fa la 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 la.
Right. But our friends at Manscaped are helping you clear your driveway for safe travels this holiday season. From stocking stuffers to gift exchanges, Manscaped's products are the top of every wish list. Grab some crop mops for your pops or the shampoo for your boo. Be the star of gifting season and help all the men in your life go from eggnog to nice hog this December by going to manscaped.com and using code TIMS for 20% plus free shipping.
Manscaped offers a handful of the liquid formulations, shampoos, body washes, upstairs and downstairs deodorant, gels, exfoliants, absolutely everything they could need to keep it clean. And why not top off the stocking with a crown jewel for their family jewels, the Lawnmower 4.0. The electric razor's advanced skin-safe technology is a life changer and known for reducing nicks and cuts on his Santa sack. It's just a ball sack trimmer from your podcast mate, Jamie.
That's right, get 20% off with free shipping with the code TIMS at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com and use the code TIMS. Manscaped for a perfect gift that will be the holiday's biggest hit. We've got some returning players. Starfelt came back.
Oh, aye.
You thought he was good, Melly?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. I know I said Aberdeen were very poor up front, but that's because Starfelt and Carter Vickers snuffed out absolutely everything. And Stephen's always said it, and I agree with him. I think Starfelt's a really good defender. It's the other
It's
side.
a genuine quote there.
Yeah. Insights. These are the
good guy
insights.
who's good at what he does.
Yeah.
But he's a really good defender in the defensive aspects of his game. He rarely makes a mistake. It's more on the ball that he doesn't look as comfortable. But again, just snuffed out everything. Didn't give Aberdeen a second. That's him coming back. His second game this season, I think, and strolled it. And that's partly down to Aberdeen, but mainly down to him and Carter Vickers. And I think there was some questions coming back into this, a break and all that. Who's sort of Ange's preferred players? He's never going to say this is my first 11, but Kyogo's ahead of Giacomakis, Starfelt ahead of Jens, and I think you go the preferred option.
Kobayashi ahead of Jens. I think that's what it's going to be.
Soon find out, I suppose. No sign of the new signings just yet. Alistair Johnston and Kobayashi, so we'll see what happens with him.
Weird looking guy, isn't he?
Yeah,
He looks a bit like Skeet Davidson.
It does. It reminds me of, and this is a reference for anyone under 35. You remember Dinosaurs, that sitcom? It was a bit like The Simpsons, but it was big animatronic dinosaurs on. He looks like the baby in
He
that
does
as well.
look like the baby of the dinosaurs, aye.
So Starfelt.
Aye, sorry.
I thought Starfelt was great, and I'm still just bemused by the feeling about Starfelt out there. Every time we talk about Starfelt, we always get comments, and it is only the odd one, so it's wrong to single out, but we always get comments on YouTube saying, "Can I believe how you can see Starfelt's a bomb scare?"
Michael Stewart's burner.
Yeah, jeez, I forgot about that beef. Remember that? Was so bizarre.
I know, it's tiresome, but I'm just bemused by it now because the guy's a really good defender. He really is. And look, see when you say that Aberdeen didn't attack, right? That is just a broad summation of what happened on the day. The truth is that even as negative a team as you can possibly imagine, and Aberdeen definitely were, right? They are going to attack at some points, even if they have, 19% of the possession on the day. Pitiful, right?
Yes.
But that's still 17 minutes of the game they had the ball for, right? So they're going to attack, and the reason that it was so dominant and they get nowhere near it was because of chiefly Starfelt. I think he absolutely snuffed absolutely everything out. Really quick along the ground, wins everything in the air, just cutting out interceptions, cutting out passes, and as little as he had to defend, he did absolutely everything perfectly, in my opinion. I think he's a really, really good player in this team, and part of the best defensive partnership we've had in God knows how long. Because you look back, probably Van Dijk and Denier are the obvious comparison as recently as we can possibly remember. But that was only one season. These guys have been absolutely brilliant for a season and a half now.
Yeah.
Granted, Starfelt's been injured a little bit this season, but the two of them have been absolutely tremendous together.
It's great to see him come back and be so strong because there's a difficult run of games in the next couple of weeks. We've got an important game against Rangers coming up. We could see the league away early. If we pick up maximum points in our next couple of games.
I don't know about that, mate. Beale ball.
Well, that's right. Michael Beale has landed at Rangers. We're all really terrified about it. One thing that should terrify Rangers, though, is the return of Callum McGregor, and Jesus Christ, he was raining to go.
It's his birthday soon.
It's my birthday first, right? So, the return of Callum McGregor, he was unbelievable.
True captain's performance, absolutely smashing. Comes in and you think, right, some players take a while to get back up to speed. 90 minutes, had more passes than the whole Aberdeen team, completely dominant, and you're just looking at him going, so tactically aware, so smart on the pitch. Just every time he gets the ball, or every time that somebody has the ball, he's available. And this is what I was talking about. Just before the break, the 3 league games were Celtic won by the odd goal in each one, did they? And I just felt Celtic playing out, it was a wee bit slower than usual, or they didn't quite do it as well, and that's because there was no Cal McGregor, I felt, because when he plays in there, for how brilliant Matt O'Reilly was in there, and I think long term he could possibly play there, but Callum McGregor, unbelievable.
He was
in
like
there.
peak Modric.
He was,
He was.
all over the place, and again, you're just looking at him going, what else can this guy do? Because if maybe goals have been taken out of his game. That performance deserved that goal from him. Celtic could have won that 3-0 and Cal McGregor would have played the exact same, but him getting the winning goal meant he get the praise he deserved.
That was the Callum McGregor finish. We used to talk about that in the podcast quite a lot. He loves that finish.
The no backlift, no follow through, just the clip across the ball into the far bottom corner. He's done it so often over the years, but what a performance. If there was ever any doubt about how important he is for this team, and don't get me wrong, Celtic can play well without him. They can do well, but it's not peak Celtic. It's not full Celtic without him in the team. And I feel like the World Cup has been a good example of the kind of thing that can happen. There are good teams in the World Cup. The overall quality isn't massive because you do get, just with the makeup of international teams, you do get top players and then there's a couple of scattered ones in there. So what I've found with the World Cup is that in true Lennon fashion, you pick your team and the best players do it for you on the day, kind of that sort of thing. And I felt like the final was no different. It just basically became a sort of Messi versus Mbappe final. But it's like, another example of that came on Sunday was that you stick your best player back in the team and look what he can do for you. It's just so important. He did absolutely everything in the game. Had the most touches, the most accurate passes for anyone who played over 45 minutes, created the most chances. I think he created 6 chances of the, granted 1,000 that Celtic created.
Midfielder.
Yeah, exactly. Created 6 chances and put a button on it by scoring an absolutely cracking winner. So a captain's performance. And more importantly than that, an absolutely brilliant, crucial player performance.
I think psychologically that was a really, really strong win for us as well, because I know we joked about Michael coming in, and all this the rubbish he's been talking the last couple of weeks. That is just an exercise in telling people what they want to hear, refusing to say Celtic's name, saying that they were going to be wearing the suits before the games, and then lo and behold, they weren't wearing the suits. Somebody was telling me that he's copying the Ange getting the ball back in play really quick. The ball boys are they're really trained and all that sort of stuff. But psychologically, they're needing us to slip up. And they were watching that game. He will have been watching that game. And that's a reminder of what they're up against. They're watching that, and that is it. Because if the tables were turned, I don't see Rangers scoring in that game.
No, it's so many times recently as well. So many times they must have been building themselves up on their forums and all that as well, and then just, I can't believe they've done it again. And
but this isn't an accident. I tweeted from 20 Minute Tim's account, we're going to win this. Yeah. And people are saying, I wish I had your confidence. It's no bravado. It's no fluke. Celtic's approach to the game in the 87th minute is the same as it is to the 7th minute. Yeah. They're just as dangerous. We don't get gassed out. The opposition get gassed out. There is this we don't stop thing. It's not just a catchphrase. It's the way Ange approaches these games. We know games last 95 minutes and we just keep going and keep going and keep going, and you're getting more tired and you're chasing the ball, and in fact the longer the game goes on, the more likely we are to win it.
Well, again, it plays back into what we were talking about earlier about the utter futility of thinking you can get away with it. Just thinking, right, I've done it for 82 minutes, that'll do us, that's the job done. So
it's like fighting, I don't know, Floyd Mayweather, and your tactic is just to let him punch your head in for however many rounds a boxing thing goes on.
Run around the ring, basically covering your head.
It's not the way you're going to do it. And
how does it always go to boxing?
It's amazing because I know fucking nothing about boxing. I've never watched a boxing match in my life, but I insist on repeatedly bringing it up. I don't know the first thing about it. I don't even pretend to like it.
Everyone knows we don't know the first thing about boxing here. We've demonstrated it so many times over the years.
Unbelievable. But Rangers will be watching that. Michael Beale will be sitting watching that, and they're going to have to come up with something as well, because they need us to slip up, and it's not happening.
In the game of boxing, you can never let your opponent see your pieces. Checkmate.
Look, it's true. He's come in, and like the Rangers, some fans seem to be happy with that. And fair enough, we've got a new manager and you hope to get that sort of bounce coming in, but the first thing that can happen is they win their game, and albeit they weren't great in their game, booed off again at half time, and my mate was telling me, but they got the victory. And the next best thing after that is, look, let's see how Celtic get on at the weekend. And when Celtic games getting late on, you go, do you know what, this would be ideal. We've won our game, didn't play well, they've dropped points, that's it, down to 7 points. We've got a game against them, and they start to build that from there. Celtic just killed that off straight away. But again, Celtic can't stop either. We've got 2 games coming up in the next week where Rangers play before us, so we have got a chance to either extend or stay as far away from them as we possibly can. So it's just about Celtic winning now, and it doesn't really matter what Rangers do, because if Celtic keep winning the games, they'll just be holding them off at arm's length.
After enduring that, at least we've got Livingston in the cold during the week.
At
least we've got that to look
It's
forward to.
Jamie's birthday, but
Don't worry about that. Yeah, it's my birthday. Thanks very much for mentioning it. Don't worry about that though, Stephen, because David Martindale, he's going to take it to Celtic. His exact words were, he's going to get it Celtic. He's going to play 4-3-3. He's going to get it us now. I think everyone sitting here knows that's a lot of bollocks, frankly. David Martindale has never approached the game in a positive manner in his whole life. And if he wants to do it at Celtic, we can't be hypocrites. We can't sit here and go, why don't some people attack? And then when David Martindale does it, go, what are you attacking for?
I mean, all for it. Big words. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. If
He's
that
always
happens.
got a lot to say about Celtic, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
He does.
It'll be a minor Christmas miracle if they come out and absolutely blow us away with their attacking intent at Celtic Park. But again, we need to take them at face value. We just need to assume that they're going to go through with this plan. It maybe a ruse, maybe a cunning ruse, and they're going to be even more defensive than they always are.
I'm just looking forward to getting back to Celtic
Yeah,
Park.
that's the main thing, isn't it?
It's irrelevant who we're playing. Yeah, a bit annoying. It's Martindale, but look, Celtic have to go out and do what they do. We know how these teams are going to approach the game, and it doesn't make a difference to Celtic. You can sit in, you can attack us. We're going to play the way we play, and that's good football. Hopefully, Haksabanovic will be back during the week, and we're starting to look very, very strong. We're going into this with Starfelt and McGregor back. We've also got Johnston and Kobayashi coming in January. So, look, Celtic are flying right now. They were flying before the break. Long may it continue.
Long may it continue, right? Okay, but that's enough of this podcast rubbish. Let's get some. I want some presents. Give me my presents, man. Right. So, I just confession time, right? Okay, confession time. We'll do mine last, right? But confession time, Stephen, and I'm sorry. Yours is Patter-based Melly. I bought you something pretty exceptional for Christmas this year, right? And I'm not kidding on.
The most wonderful time of the year,
so
guys.
Who bought me this?
That's from me.
Right, so where's you get Stephen's one to you then? There it's there, the red wrapping, right? Feels soft. Is it money? Feels like money.
Yeah.
Let's... It's my face and Charlie Mulgrew's face. I'm going to bring this up to the camera. Can see my face and Charlie Mulgrew's face. And I recognise this picture of my face you got. I remember exactly the story I was telling when I filmed this about someone that recognised me from the podcast. I was standing next to them in a queue and they just kept going. I'm like, that guy recognises me, which happens quite a lot. Those are one that I feel like my face has ruined it though. My face has ruined it because I would have just loved Charlie to be on those. Right, Melly, on you go.
Let's see. Decent wrapping here.
This is... What's that? Is that Bockies?
With Tony Ralston's cooking on.
Tony Ralston in Love Hearts.
Not a pair of boxers. That's desperately seedy.
Oh, glorious.
Oh, wonderful.
I've got a new favourite pair now.
Your girlfriend will love those.
She sure will. Wear them every day.
Hey, Melly, you dish out yours.
Right, so...
that's for Stevens. I can see that
for
there.
Stephen. There's a wee card there.
A card as well?
Yeah.
I feel bad, Adam.
Right, well, Jamie, me and you are not animals.
Swap,
Okay.
that's
We are,
sealed with a loving kiss
yes.
as well.
Thank you to Collectible88 for the cards. Very nice. Me and you are not animals, Jamie. We are normal men.
Yeah.
Who, yes,
Along for Christmas, a Matt O'Reilly card, lovely. To Stephen, Merry Christmas. F the Huns, you're more handsome than the man on this card.
Lies.
Love it, yeah. Don't lie at Christmas, Melly.
Don't say Huns at Christmas. It's meant to be a time of goodwill.
I didn't say it, I wrote it. And, we're not animals, Jamie. We are normal men, and these things are needed for a man.
Let's have a look.
Oh yes. Slippers.
Do you not have slippers?
I don't have slippers.
Hey.
Famously.
All times. I'm in slippers at all times.
I bet they're too big for me. Put them on right now.
No, they're size 4s. They're your size.
Let's see.
There you go. Do they fit?
I'm going to get them on camera. Oh,
Just watch what the view of the camera's getting here. One for
lovely.
There you go. One for the foot freaks. What have you got there, mine? Looks pretty big, mate.
Well, Rangers have done a wee thing in their stadium, and I thought, do you know what? It's not fair for them to do that and us not to have the proper one here. So, I know there's a wee backstory. I went to buy this, right? And there was another one, and I was so tempted to buy it because it was much funnier. But I said to the guy, that one's not the same price as the rest, is it? And he said, yeah. And I'll tell you who it is afterwards.
Let's see. It's weighty. It's
So
heavy.
you've got a card as well, wouldn't
I've
you?
got a card. Let me see the card.
Just a good bit of wholesome, tax-deductible hilarity
Yeah,
at Christmas,
this is it.
isn't it, guys?
Mine's is also swalt.
Right.
And I wanted the "You're Better Looking Than Matt O'Reilly" card. Mine says "Merry Christmas, Jota," with his wee
Annoying
incorrect
hingy,
bent
yes.
out arm, his wee incorrect bent out arm. And my card says "Merry Christmas, F the H from your second favourite ginger." Love Mail. Who's my first favourite ginger?
Neil Francis.
Oh, Neil Francis Lennon, you're right. I do have a thing for gingers as well, though, so I wondered if you're referring to someone in particular there. Right, let's see. Let's have a look here. Oh, it's heavy, Stephen.
It is. That looks impressive.
You're fucking jealous, I can tell. This isn't slippers, by the way, I can tell. This is... Mel, I think you spent more on you spent more on sellotape than you did on
My girlfriend wrapped it. So
the gift.
Phil for a couple of seconds
he's
here.
opened it the right way so
I've
we can have a
opened
wee
it,
bit
yeah,
of tension.
The big reveal. It is...
If Rangers get a picture of the king, we get a picture of the king.
That's lovely.
Right.
That's lovely. That's going up in the bedroom. Is that...
It's better than here, man.
Is that really signed by Henrik Larsson? Jeez.
Went all the way to Sweden for it. So there was a number of these ones, but I thought Rangers get the king, we get the king of kings. But there was one of a certain Celtic player, and the guy was like, "Is that the same price?" And I was like, "Surely it's cheaper because he was the worst Celtic player ever." Shane Duffy. Charge me full price for Shane Duffy.
Did they have a Charlie Mulgrew one?
No, they didn't. Sorry.
Right, so this year I've given the gift of knowledge to the boys. Steve, let me just double check that that's the right one for you. Right, so let me just check here. Oh, I'm so good at rapping. Got my niece to rap these basically. Let me just double check.
Pop an initial on it in future. Just so we
that's,
we can
that's
tell them
yours,
apart. Yeah,
Stephen. So we were discussing on a recent podcast football books, and Stephen doubted, the need for this particular book in the world. He wondered why it even existed, and we posited
Could
around
it be?
here.
I'm not even going to look. Homegrown Hero by James Forrest.
Look at the price.
That is extraordinary. £20. There are about 12 words per page.
So Stephen said in the previous podcast, he goes, we've probably only sold one of those. I thought
he scored the same number of goals now as copies sold of Homegrown Hero.
That's a collector's item. That is a collector's item in future. I don't want to see that now. Martin Melly.
This could have been so much better because I nearly bought that.
Just if you could just open yours. I want you to promise me, right, before you do it, just open it. I don't want it
No
on
tears?
I don't want it on eBay.
Okay.
I don't want any tears either. I don't want you. But God, that would be embarrassing. But Stephen, I don't want you getting jealous. Right. Now what you've got there, just don't do anything. Just hold up, show the camera, let build some suspense. There you go. What? Do you know? No, hold on. Do you know what you've got in your hand there? You've got a signed Martin O'Neill book. Open that front cover. Read it out. Read out the message.
Martin, all the best. 2023. Yours, Jamie Flynn.
You keep that. That'll be worth.
It is a signed Martin O'Neill book.
That'll be worth an absolute fortune in future. There you go, lads. The gift of knowledge.
Thank you.
From your friend Jamie. And that's where we will wrap up this Christmas edition of 20 Minute Tims. Thank you so much to everyone who's joined us throughout this lovely year. We'll be back. We're not stopping. Obviously, the football doesn't stop, so we continue. We will be through this winter break. We're going to have a lot of stuff on Patreon for the Glasgow Derby coming up as well. Thanks to everyone who supports us on Patreon. If you want to involve, patreon.com/20minutetims. But most of all, thank you for watching and listening.
And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.